So now that we've got water running through our Dewalt 3835 pressure washer, it's standard garden pressure, which is 30 psi. And if I pull the trigger on my handle right now, you'll see the water coming out. And in this case, the water's coming out in a 15-degree wide spray pattern because that's the type of blast head I have on the lance. You also notice that there's really no vacuum pressure at 30 psi. The vacuum gauge doesn't register at all. So the next thing to do now is we got to start the system up to where we can get some pressure. So let's see. So starting our Dewalt 3835 is relatively straightforward. What we want to do first is we want to make sure that we have gas in the tank. And remember that it takes about 1.5 gallons or 1.4 gallons to fill this up. So make sure you have gas. The next thing we want to do is turn on the on switch. That's the bright red button over here. It's actually a kill switch also, so when you turn off the machine, you're going to want to turn that to the off position. It just kills the whole machine. But to get it started, we need to turn it on, and so let's turn that switch to the on position right now. The next thing we want to do is we want to open up the fuel line that goes from the gas tank to the motor. And in order to open up that fuel line, there's a lever here, a sliding lever. And what we want to do is slide that lever to the right. You'll see in the little diagram here that you want to move it to the right, and that opens up the fuel line so we have gas to the motor. Now, since this motor is cold, it hasn't been run for a good 24 hours, so it's totally cold, hasn't been used. What we need to do is we need to use the choke on this before we pull the motor. So in this case here, what we're going to do is we're going to close the choke, and in order to do that, we're going to move the lever to the left. So the starting position on these machines is to have the gas to the right and the choke to the left. And on the top here is we're going to set our motor speed. The motor speed has a sliding lever also, and there's a diagram here that shows a tortoise and a hare. The tortoise is slow, the hare's fast. So what I'm going to do is, instead of starting this thing at full blast, I'm going to move it down into the about half speed position right now. So now that we've got our on switch on, we've got our fuel line open, we've got our choke closed, now we're ready to pull the handle here and start the motor. Now once this thing gets started, it usually starts pretty quick, what we're going to do is we're going to move this choke sliding lever slowly to the right as the engine warms up. So that's what we're going to do. Once it starts, we're going to move this choke over and it'll settle the motor down. So that's what we're going to do. We're ready to start it. Now before we pull the handle on here, what we need to do is we need to release some of the pressure that's built up in our hose line. Otherwise, when we're pulling this cord, we're fighting the built up water pressure inside the motor and the pump, inside the pump. So what we're going to have to do is simultaneously, we're going to have to hold down the trigger on the gun, and we're going to have to pull the cord at the same time to start this. So what I'm going to do is, let's give this a shot right now. I'm in an awkward position. I'll try to do this. Usually I'm doing it standing up. So I'm going to pull the trigger like this, keep it running, and I think I'll pull the handle, and we'll see what we got. That's how you start it up. And right now, the choke isn't fully open yet, but we're going to do that. You can see we have a nice spray pattern, and our gauge is starting to register a little bit of vacuum pressure. Let's let this engine warm up for a minute. Put that down. I'm going to move the quote. I'm going to close the choke pit, or open it. I've moved it all the way to the right now, and now I can turn the motor up a little bit faster. Let it warm up a bit. Now turn it all the way on. the system off, what you want to do is turn off that red kill switch in the back. So I'm going to run over there and turn that off, and then our system will be shut down. And that's basically how you operate the Dewalt 3835 and get it started.